Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host and subconscious reprogramming expert, Allison K. Dagny. For those of you just tuning in, I am a 20-year survivor of emotional abuse. I've become a 2-time best-selling author as well as an emotional abuse recovery mentor. And I come on this podcast every single week to give you tools, tips, suggestions, and support on how to move forward after emotional abuse and be the best version of you that you can. So, if you thought that leaving an emotionally abusive relationship, getting out of a toxic dynamic would bring relief, but instead you actually feel more obsessed of the person, maybe you feel dysregulated, maybe you're really confused, then this episode is going to explain why, and I'm going to give you some tools to help get through it. Because it doesn't mean that you made the wrong choice if you've left, right? Just because you're starting to feel those feelings and that dysregulation. Okay, first I need to just remind you all, I don't love the phrase trauma bond because though we all have an idea about what this is, I just feel like bonded to someone through trauma is just not a healthy expression. And using the word bond sometimes makes it feel like it's good, even though it's paired with trauma. So I'm going to use this term just for the sake of people being able to understand it. But really and truly, you're not bonded to somebody from trauma. You are in a dysregulated nervous system state that keeps you in a loop where you continue to be pulled back. So by the end of this episode, I want you to gain clarity on why these quote unquote trauma bonds intensify after the breakup, and then how the withdrawal shows up emotionally and physically, and what actually helps this unwind. So I think we're going to call this a trauma attachment instead of a trauma bond because, you know, like a mother-child bond is very different from like a trauma attachment. Okay, so we're gonna use that phrasing here for the sake of making sure that that's very clear when we're talking about what this is. But I want to explain it. So a trauma attachment is formed through intermittent emotional reinforcement. So that means sometimes you're going to get that love and affection, and sometimes you're going to get breadcrumbs. Sometimes things are going to be great, and sometimes things are going to be horrible. Okay, so this intermittent emotional reinforcement keeps you in that cycle. The other thing that I want you to know is that when you experience relief in an emotionally abusive relationship or a toxic dynamic, or even like after the breakup and you get some relief and connection even, it's usually followed with something else that's bad. So threats, withdrawals, silent treatments, confusion, arguing, anxiety, so it just keeps you stuck in this loop. And then your nervous system, what happens in your nervous system is it starts to link these things together. So your nervous system feels the pain and the suffering and the struggle, and then it really, really wants relief. And usually, if you're in this trauma attachment, you will at some point get that relief. And whether that's from a reconciliation, a nice text, a makeup sex session, whatever that might be, right? You're going to get that relief. And then you feel reconnected and attached, and then the cycle continues. Back to the pain, then the relief, then the attachment, back to the pain, then the relief, then the attachment, okay? So this is that trauma attachment. That's what I'm going to use that term instead of trauma bond. So your body is not really attached to this person. It's really attached to this cycle. And so we have to really differentiate that, because often people are making it mean that we're meant to be, this is my person, things can work out, we just need to try harder or be better or whatever, okay? Now, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, that sometimes you can have a trauma bond, trauma attachment within side of a relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to break up in order to experience this. You can experience it within the actual relationship, okay? That would be like we're fighting and it's chaotic, and then we make up, and then we have relief, and then we connect, and then we repeat it. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's very clear. You can also experience this after the breakup, right? You run into the person, you see them out, you come across something they posted on social media, you hear about them that they were talking about you, and these kinds of things may kind of pull you back because your body and your nervous system is in that attachment cycle. Okay? So let's talk about why you might feel a stronger pull after leaving. Because yes, you can experience this within a relationship, but often this feeling intensifies after you've left, or after they've left you, or whatever the breakup or divorce or whatever that might be. So what is going on inside of you is that disconnection, or the leaving or divorce, breakup, whatever, takes away the reward part. It takes away, there's no reward relief feeling there anymore. And the nervous system starts to experience this as withdrawal. So your brain then is scrambling to try to get you back to normal. It's trying to help you get things back into balance. And so what you're feeling at that time is your system is destabilized. And it's not just that the feeling of love is intensifying, or like, oh, I miss them, and you know, they're my person and we need to reconnect. And that's why, if you know that this person is bad for you, you know that the relationship is toxic, that really the only way to maintain health for your nervous system and your emotions and your mental health is no contact. And if you've not heard of no contact, essentially it's exactly what it sounds like. You do not have contact with this person. You do not text with them. You do not have coffee with them. You do not have conversations with them. Like, it's basically like they do not exist. And a lot of people struggle with this because they feel like, oh, well, I'm a bad person if I don't have a conversation with them, or I should say hi to them if I see them, or if they're being nice, I should be nice back. And what happens is you end up back in the dynamic. And so, and I've seen this many, many times with many people who have reached out for support, sometimes clients even, where they have limiting beliefs, subconscious beliefs, like, if someone's nice to me, I should just be nice back, even if they hurt me, right? And so I have to sometimes remind everyone that you don't have to be nice to someone who hurt you. You don't have to do it to be polite. You don't have to go no contact and then break no contact just because that you're afraid of what it's going to mean about you. Oh, I'm going to be considered mean, or they're going to think I'm a bitch, or like whatever, right? So this intensity of after you've left that feels so strong is not necessarily about love. It's about your brain trying to get back to normal. It's your system's trying to stabilize again. So when this happens, this will look like rumination. You'll start filling in the gaps about, you know, what this means, or why they're doing this, or what it means about me. Like, there's a gap in your brain, right? Meaning like of information. So you need to ruminate and think about all the things to fill in the gap, because your brain doesn't like the unknown. And so you may experience these urges to reach out to them, or you may want to have that final conversation, or feel like you have to explain yourself or get that closure. And I do have another episode on closure. If you roll back to episode 43, it's the closure myth. And if you're somebody who believes that you need closure to heal, then you should probably go back and listen to that episode 43. Another thing that you may do during this time, the aftermath of a breakup, or, you know, when you are no contact, is romanticizing the good moments. So you actually give more weight to the good times than you do to the bad times. And I see this all the time because it actually feels better in some ways to do that, because if you think about only the bad things, then one, you kind of start gaslighting yourself a little bit and thinking, well, maybe I was the bad one and maybe it really wasn't that bad, and maybe I'm just a bad person for just focusing on the bad things, right? So you end up romanticizing the good moments for many, many reasons, but usually it doesn't end well when we do that, because that is really just a way for your nervous system to convince you to go back or to break no contact. It's saying, oh, it really, they weren't that bad, and think about all the good times that we had, and things could be amazing, right? We have to look at this from a realistic perspective, not just a fantasy perspective, because yes, there probably were good times, but we can't forget about the bad stuff, okay? And then you might even experience physical symptoms like anxiety in your body, maybe emptiness, or especially loneliness, things like that. So if you are experiencing things like this, then you want relief from it because it's uncomfortable. And we want to either reach out or like think about the good times, or, just try to fill in the gap with our thoughts and, erase the anxiety just so I can feel better. And so that's why a lot of people go back. And I think the statistic is somewhere around like 7 times people go back that many times after leaving or trying to leave. I don't know if that's an accurate statistic, but that was the last one I had heard. But your body's just trying to help you feel better. It's just trying to give you relief, right? If you have an urge to smoke a cigarette because you've decided you're going to quit, that intensity is going to come up and you're going to feel like you need to go get a cigarette, right? And it's similar to this. It's like, I'm uncomfortable and I need to be comfortable again. And this is the way I'm going to do it. But I'm going to urge you to lean into the discomfort. I am going to be releasing my 3rd book in April, and it's called Hack Your Mind, Heal Your Heart. And this is a trauma-informed guide to helping you rewire your mind. And one of the things that I talk about in this book is leaning into discomfort. And I use a tool that I call don't scratch the itch. And so the way that this works is so that you don't like inflame your nervous system if you're already activated, things like that, is to start with something small, because it doesn't help to like, if you're trying to like push yourself into discomfort and you're already activated, to go do like an ice bath or do breath work even. Like sometimes those things can really make it worse. So don't scratch the itch is really just a way for you to ease yourself into discomfort. So this could look like, if you literally have an itch on your body somewhere and you notice it, don't scratch it. Just see how long you can sit with the discomfort. Just stretch yourself a little bit further each time. You can also do this with like hunger pains. So it's time for dinner and everyone's getting their plate of food and you're really hungry. Just see how long you can stretch it out. And it's not to like torture yourself or do anything to harm yourself. It's just testing your capacity for discomfort and seeing how long you can do this. And when you train your body to get used to discomfort in small ways, then other discomfort becomes more bearable, like the bigger discomforts, right? So this isn't something that's just like, oh, you don't scratch the itch and then you're going to be able to like stay no contact. No, that's not what I mean. But it does help you get used to it. So when that book comes out, I'm like really excited and I hope you guys will grab that. And of course I'll have more information to come about that. But if you're interested in getting details, you can go to my book website, which is www.alisonkdagney.com. And then you can put your email in, and then when new information comes out about the book, I will send it to you. All right, so let's keep going on this. All right, let's shift gears into meaning. Meaning means everything, okay? And I really want to explain this to you because this is where people usually spiral out. The thing is, we're often taught to believe that if you long for something, that means it's meant for you, or that we should go for it, or that it's true. And that's just not always the case. Or maybe we're taught that if I'm experiencing pain, then there's unfinished business, or there's loose ends that need to be tied up, or I need to get closure, right? That's that episode I was mentioning before. Or it could be that you believe that missing somebody means that they, again, like I said before, we're the one, or it's meant to be, or we have this deep connection, or, we're supposed to be together, right? So these attachments, these trauma attachments, what they're doing is they're creating this like false meaning. And there's a problem with this because most people don't stop to ask, what else could it mean? Could it mean that I'm meant to learn a lesson here? Could it mean that I need to sit with my discomfort longer? Could it mean they're not meant for me? Could it mean I don't need closure, right? And this is where people get lost because they don't consider alternative possibilities or alternative meanings. They just run with what they think. First thought, run with it. And that causes us to stay in these loops, unfortunately. Now, there is a risk that comes up at this stage that I want you to be aware of. And the risk is that you go back to regulate, to get out of discomfort, number one. Number two is you contact them, or you respond to them contacting you to stop the discomfort. That maybe you go into dating other people or relationships really quickly to numb that gap and not having the relationship, like to kind of avoid the discomfort. Or number four, maybe you are just deciding you can't be alone. You're just like, I just need somebody. I just need a person, right? Well, again, some of this stuff is meaning as well, right? And beliefs that live in your subconscious mind. So every time I'm here, I'm telling you about things that are related to your subconscious mind because your subconscious mind is driving your feelings. Your feelings are driving the behavior, right? So if you believe I can't be alone, and a lot of people do believe this, and if you've ever been on my website, I have a subconscious belief quiz that you can take for free. And then I give you a full report back within 48 hours after I review it to show you the themes and patterns that are coming up on a subconscious level for you personally. And if you're believing things like I can't be alone, that's the one I think is in my quiz, then what happens is you're going to do whatever it takes so that your brain can be right. So I'm going to date new people. I'm going to go back to my ex. I'm going to distract myself by hanging out with friends or surrounding myself with people, even if they're not good people, right? Because the deep belief is I can't be alone. So you're going to do whatever you can do to not be alone because your brain wants to be right. So most people do not return to the other person because they want the relationship or because they want the person. It's usually because they just want the feeling to stop. It's usually because they don't want to feel that feeling, whether it's fear, whether it's sadness, whether it's loneliness, whether it's longing, whatever that is, they want that feeling to stop. Now, I do want to address why time isn't the healer. And I've talked about this before, but time isn't the thing. Time alone does not fix stuff, okay? So the work that you do, the practice that you put in, the things that you change with the time that you have is what's actually going to fix it. So time isn't interrupting your nervous system loops, for example. Like if something comes up on a nervous system activation for you, then you have to be the one to choose to stop the loop. And interestingly, it's so funny that I say that word, but stop the loop. I have an audio, a free audio you can get on my website that helps you stop the loop. So if you're somebody who ruminates a lot, it's a 5-minute audio and it's free. You can listen to that and it will help you ground yourself. It's embedded with frequencies, subconscious language, and different tones and cadences that help you so that you don't have to really like do anything. You just have to listen, essentially. The other thing is that when you are dysregulated, knowing why you're dysregulated doesn't really change anything. Okay, so again, like time doesn't fix it, insight doesn't fix it, distractions don't fix it, they just delay it, right? So just remember those three things. Time doesn't heal, knowledge doesn't change anything. Like it gives you information, but it's not going to actually change your body. And then like distractions are just going to delay or, you know, temporarily band-aid things. So if time was the thing, you could be distant from somebody for a long time, but that doesn't mean you would stop having triggering moments. It doesn't mean you would stop the longing. It doesn't mean that you would even feel better at all. So we need to make sure that you understand that the thing that actually changes you is what you do with the time. And that's not band-aiding. That's not coping, right? That's getting to the root. Let's get to the root and pull it out like a weed, right? Like, you know, if you just chop that weed off, well, in a couple of weeks, that weed's going to be right there. But if you dig down to the root and you pull it up, it's not going to come back. And that's what we have to do in our subconscious minds, so that if you are feeling these ways and you do want to stop going back and you don't want to have these things continue to ruminate in your mind and all of that, then you've got to get it out at the root. So these are the things that a lot of people miss when they're trying to do healing work. So I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you're listening. Now, what is going to help? Okay, because I know you guys want to know, like, well, what can I do and how can I change this or shift this, or, you know, if I have this trauma attachment, what do I do? Well, you need to understand your nervous system. You need to understand your reactions. So how does your body respond when things happen like this? When you are pulled away from the other person, you are no contact, you have broken up and you feel this intensity or the longing or whatever it is. What's going on in your body? Are you feeling tense? Are you feeling tight? Do you have gut punches in your stomach? Is your head like just in a fog? Getting to know yourself is going to be important. And your nervous system, right, it's connected, the whole body and mind and all of the things are connected, needs interruption. It needs something to interrupt it safely, truly. And this attachment can dissolve when your body can learn to regulate on its own without the relationship, the person, someone else outside of you to regulate you. And that's the problem that most people fall into, is like, well, I'm not able to regulate myself, so I need to go back to the source of where I get my regulation from, this person or this relationship, so that I can feel better. So the process here is to understand your nervous system and your body, find ways to interrupt it and regulate it instead of needing to go outside of yourself to regulate it. And that is the biggest thing here. Because if you can't self-regulate and you rely on someone else to help you, then how are you ever going to be okay? Right? And this usually requires some support and guidance. There's a thing called co-regulation, and maybe you've heard of this before, but as human beings, we do need other humans to help co-regulate us. So I'm not saying if you're experiencing this, you just need to go in your room and like try your hardest and will it away. No, that's not what I mean at all. I mean, you need to learn the proper tools, like the tools that I use in my coaching programs, to help you regulate yourself. So you co-regulate with someone like me, who's a coach, to help you, teach you how to do it so that you can learn, so that your body does acclimate to being able to self-regulate. because most people aren't doing it. Most people are just going back to the source to get those needs met. And then when they can't, like, or if they're not able to, for whatever reason, if the other person will no contact, then it feels really painful, especially if you don't know how to do the regulation work. So if you need support with that, then that's what I do. There's nothing about you that's weak or incapable or like anything like that if you are struggling with this, right? This is just you haven't been taught and you don't know how. But that's what I do, and that's why I'm here. So maybe just think of this as like practicing to regulate your nervous system, not like forcing with willpower. And I think that helps land things a little bit softer. And if you're listening and realizing that a lot of what I'm describing here is explaining what you've been experiencing, then you're not alone. That's very normal. I mean, so many people I talk to all the time from my free root cause calls that I do are in the same position. So many people and my clients. But we work towards getting through that stuff by getting to the root of it, and then having the right tools, which is so, so important to me, because I can remember years of therapy that I did, and I would just like beg my therapist, like, what can I do before our next session, and how can I, and I never really got anything of substance. And so I just thought, well, I guess I'm just going to be in therapy for the rest of my life. But that's not true, because once I figured out the root of why I kept feeling the way I was feeling and behaving the way I was behaving, then I was able to change it. And you can do that too. So you're just at a specific stage of healing. Let's just talk about the fact that you are where you are. That doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean that you're not moving quickly enough or you're not healing fast enough. No, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're hearing this at the exact time that you need to hear it. I totally believe that. All right, so just as a summary of this episode, what you have heard today is why these trauma attachments often feel either louder or more intense after the breakup or the divorce or when you leave. And it's not ever because you made the wrong choice. So if you're feeling like, oh, I'm pulled back, I must have made the wrong decision. No, it's your nervous system experiencing withdrawal from this cycle that over time it learned to depend on. And the rumination and the urge to reach out and the anxiety and the physical symptoms, right? These are all just signs of an unfinished loop that wants to cycle back again. Okay? This doesn't mean that it's love, or it doesn't mean that you failed or anything like that. And actually, you get to choose the meaning. You get to choose. I don't know if anybody ever told you that, but I'm going to give you permission. You get to choose the meaning of everything in your life. What you choose to make it mean is so powerful. So remember I said at the beginning of the episode I was going to give you some tools, and I always want to leave you with something to help you. And that was the Stop the Loop audio that you can get for free on my website. It's 5 minutes, and check it out. Listen to it. See if it helps you when you're in the middle of rumination. I'm not saying to do this if you're feeling fine. Do it when you're in the middle of ruminating and see what happens, because it's designed to help interrupt those nervous system patterns that are replaying that toxic attachment. And then the Don't Scratch the Itch tool that I mentioned, I talk about in my book that's coming out in April. These kinds of tools help you ride out these urges and keep you from jumping back into the cycle again. So this is about helping your body settle so that this attachment can actually start to detach. This is not, where I'm not telling you to suppress anything or distract yourself. No, I'm actually trying to help you detach. So if this episode has given you something to think about, put words to something you've been experiencing, right? Good. I hope it has. And you're in a very, very specific and real stage of your healing journey. And it's good to acknowledge where you are and know that you don't have to force anything, push anything, go faster, anything like that. And if you want my support, I'm happy happy to help you. So don't forget, you can check the website, www.radiatenrise.com, for tools, resources, information, courses, all the things on my website. Free subconscious belief quiz, stop the loop audio, all that stuff is out there for you. My community, if you're interested in getting support like that, my one-on-one, everything is listed. And there is actually a section where I kind of condensed things so that it's easier for you to decide where you should start. Because sometimes when we've been abused for a really long time, or we've been stuck in these cycles, it's hard to know what to do, where to start. You can always schedule a free 30-minute root cause call with me, and I can help give you some of that clarity too. I can say, okay, here's where I see your patterns, and this is what I think will help you the most. So if you're just like one of those people who are in like freeze mode because you're like, it's too overwhelming, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. The where to start is just schedule that free 30-minute consultation with me, and I will help you get to the root of your subconscious beliefs, and then I will help you choose the best path forward. And before we end, I want to read you an email that I got from someone after this root cause call that I did. She said, "Thank you so much again for our chat today. It was so unbelievably helpful to me, and I spent the entire day feeling much more clear and optimistic. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen and work through it with me. You're obviously a very strong woman and great to talk to." So she's considering some other options to work with me, but I just wanted to share that with you because there's never any pressure on these calls. It's literally just me connecting with you and trying to help you see where maybe your limits and blocks are, and then guide you on a path forward. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here week to week. I appreciate you immensely, and I will talk to you next week.